I called 911. The person who answered was not a police officer. Hello? My 8-year-old voice trembled. Is this emergency services? It sure is. The cheerful male voice on the other end of the phone line answered. What's the trouble, young man? I frowned. Young man, weren't they supposed to say 911, what's your emergency? Something seemed wrong, but I brushed it off. I assumed maybe it was his first day, but I never could have guessed the horrifying truth of who I was actually talking to. Either way, there was no time to waste. Something's wrong with my mom. She fell down all of a sudden. I pressed the phone to my ear and leaned back. My mother lay where she'd collapsed just minutes ago. Oh no, that's too bad. Someone will be over right away. Click. I dropped the phone and crept over to my mother. The faint rise and fall of her chest was the only way I even knew she was alive. Wait, I hadn't told the ambulance people our address. How had they not asked me for it? I ran back to the phone and dialed 911 again. 151 Cliffmore Way, 151 Cliffmore Way. I shouted into the receiver, then hung up. I shut my eyes tight. I wanted to scream, to shatter into a million pieces like the glass that had fallen from my mother's grasp just before she collapsed. But all I could do was wait, hold her hand and pray. It felt like an eternity before the doorbell rang. I sprang to my feet but froze when I turned the corner. A short, brown-haired white man was peering through the window with a grin on his face. He rang the bell again, more instantly this time, and I noticed he wore a red nurse's uniform. I let out a sigh of relief. The ambulance people were here. Everything was going to be okay. I yanked the door open. "Hello there, young man," the smiling man exclaimed. I read the name Marbus on his name tag, right beside the pens and stethoscope. "Where's the unlucky lady?" he asked. "You mean my mom?" I stammered. "She's in here." Two expressionless assistants in identical red uniforms rolled a Guernsey to where my mother lay, surrounded by shards of glittering glass. Up, and away. Nurse Marbus rubbed his hands together excitedly while my mother was loaded into the Guernsey and rolled out the door. A jolt of helpless fear shot through me. They were taking my mother away. Mister, can I ride with my mom to the hospital?" I asked the smiling man. "Hospital?" Nurse Marbus wrinkled his forehead, confused. "Oh, there's no need for that. We're professionals, you see." As the assistants loaded my mother into the back of the black ambulance, I looked over their shoulders at the sharp and jagged tools hanging from its walls. They weren't like any medical instruments that I'd ever seen. "We'll take excellent care of your mother," the smiling man went on, "and call as soon as you can see her." Nurse Marbus leapt into the rear compartment. His expressionless assistants climbed into the cab, and the black ambulance began to back out of the driveway. I ran behind it, waving my hands. I wanted to yell at them to stop, but I was just a kid. Who was I to contradict the professionals? I was still standing there 5 minutes later when flashing red and blue lights came skidding around the street corner. The two police officers muttered into their radios and looked worriedly at the scene in front of them. A crying child, a wide-open door. "Did you call 911? A blonde policewoman asked. "I did," I nodded. "But they already came. They took my mom away." The two police officers looked at each other. "I'm afraid that's not possible. We received a call from this location, a child shouting an address, and we're the first ones to respond." The words spun around in my head. If they were the first ones here, who had taken my mom? "No," I whispered, my heart racing. "Then who was—" Before I could finish, the policewoman pulled up her radio again. "We need an immediate trace on a black ambulance that just left 151 Cliffmore Way. Suspects are potentially dangerous." The other officer crouched